Well, hello, pen friends. Here I am to talk to you again today about some pens. And I'm going to be talking to you today about TWSBIs. In particular, as you've seen in the title, I will be talking about this pen, the TWSBI Draco. It's something that a lot of people have opened so far, but I wanted to show you them in context with the other TWSBIs that I have. So I will be opening it, but let's just show you a couple of things first. This was my first TWSBI. This was a gift from my wife. Actually, what she did is she said that I could purchase myself a pen, and at the time, this was an expensive pen to me, and I was very happy to purchase this Smoke Vac 700. And those of you who haven't seen one of these, it is very similar to the clear Vac 700, and I have one of those too. Now, this seems redundant. Why do you have two of the same pen besides the fact that they're the same color? What happened was I lost this pen, and a friend of mine had two of these, and so I was able to, I can't remember if I purchased or traded with him to get this one, or if he gave it to me as a gift, because honestly, it was a while ago. Anyway, these are both VAC 700s. They are not 700Rs. These are the ones that have the seal, and I'll show you on this clear one here if we can show it up close. The difference between the 700 and the 700R is the 700 has that second gasket on the top of the piston head here. There's two gaskets there. So what they did was when they redesigned the 700 so that this first seal, the one that actually creates the vacuum as you pump this to fill it with ink. Oh, look at that, the cap's broken. Oh my goodness, I didn't know that one of these of mine would ever break, but I hear that they do, and lo and behold, this one has been sitting in storage, and it broke. So, I wasn't going to talk about this, but now I'm going to. TWSBIs are notorious for breaking, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the material is a polycarbonate, which on its own is fairly strong. They coat it with a scratch-resistant coating, and somehow that combination makes for a cracky, an unfortunately crackable material. And there you can see this is the common fail point on the VAC 700s and the 700Rs is right here at the cap ring. And this pen was not abused, as I just barely took it out of its case. And I've only used it like twice, so hence that's why it's so fastidiously clean, is because I honestly haven't used it. Yeah, it cracked. So that makes me sad. So this is the one from my friend Dave. But anyway, so I showed you the difference between the VAC 700 and I'll show you the VAC 700R, which I have one of those as well. Isn't that sad? Anyway, this is the VAC 700R. This one has been filled literally once, and I didn't do a superlative job cleaning it, but I put it away. And this is the 700R Iris, which was a limited edition, I guess. It's got a titanium nitride coating on it to give it these funky rainbow colors, which I enjoy. If you've seen my videos on titanium pens, then you know you understand that. But anyway, so it works on the same principle, where to fill it, you draw this back, you put it down in the ink, and you stroke this. And as this goes down, it's creating vacuum here. And if there were more oil in here, if I pushed it down like this, it would actually, yeah, there it goes. It draws back up because it's creating a vacuum behind the seal. And then as soon as you pop it past this opening here, it draws ink up into the barrel. And that's how that is. So the difference is, if you can see it through the filth here, there isn't a second seal as there was on the 700. This is the 700R. And what they did is they remachined the base here of the section so that the seal is this. When you screw it down, it closes off this ink chamber from the nib section so that you can more safely travel with it. Anyway, so those are my 700s. The Smoke, the Clear, and the R Iris. I have another one, and it was the after the clear one. This is one that was much anticipated by me because I'd been following TWSBI. They showed one of these where the cap was black and the blind cap back here was black, and this piece in here was Coke bottle green, which I thought was super cool. Well, they didn't make that one, but they made this one. And so this is the clear TWSBI Vac Mini. You can see there, TWSBI Vac Mini. And it works on the same principle as the 700s in that it is a vacuum filler. And you do the same thing as you open it up, draw it back, and it will draw it pink like that. And this one, again, does not have the second seal on it because they have machined the base of the section so that when you close it and then turn it tight, that effectively closes off the two chambers. Anyway, I will fill this one up in a moment, but I wanted to show you the other pens I got. There have been a lot of TWSBI special releases, particularly in the last couple of years. One of the things they've done, and this is kind of their most well-known pen, and again, it's filthy, and I apologize for that. I have been inking up and using and putting away pens, and I've been super busy, so I haven't cleaned them as well as I should have. But anyway, here we go. Excuse me. This is the TWSBI Diamond 580, and this is the ALR, and the ALR means that it has aluminum piston mechanism and a textured aluminum section. And typically they're anodized in a matching color. This is the Prussian blue, which is quite nice. It has a tiny nib, and that's one of the things that kind of bugs me about TWSBIs is that the only pens that have the large number 6 nibs, well, see, this one doesn't have a TWSBI nib, and that's another story, but well, I'll tell you now. I dropped this pen, and I've only dropped 2 pens and ruined the nibs on them, and this is one of the 2, and so I actually have another TWSBI nib that I put in it, but it was an extra fine, and I'm not particularly fond of extra fines, so I had this Jinhao medium lying around, and actually it's a beautiful nib. It works really well. Anyway, it's a number 6 nib, and all of the other TWSBIs use a number 5 nib. There's actually a couple of sizes of number 5 nibs, but this is the one that TWSBI uses, and it's what they have in all of their piston fillers. As you can see, it has a piston mechanism that's been greased, and you're not supposed to mess with that grease. You can open these up to clean them more thoroughly and to add more silicone grease to the edges of the seal here and to the O-rings and such, but you're not supposed to mess with what's on the aluminum. Anyway, so this is another special release pen. There was another one that came out in the last year or so that's also quite nice that I picked up, and it's quite pretty, actually. This is the rose gold. It's also the TWSBI Diamond 580, but this is the RG2, which means rose gold number 2. Apparently, the original iteration of this pen, the rose gold plating wore off of the pens and the nibs, whereas this one I guess they made the plating more durable. Anyway, it's kind of neat where it's got the smoked cap and the smoked section and blind cap back here. At 2 is a piston filler, and it's got the grease on it there. This is one that I did clean out a bit better, as you can see. These piston mechanisms work quite well, and that's why they use them in many of their pens. So we have the Diamond 580, we have the Vac Mini, and we have the 700s. So those are 3 of the major models. Probably the better selling model right now, and I'm not sure because I don't see their numbers, but it's this one. It comes in this plastic case, Eco. And in this plastic case is just a plain Jane black cap, black tail cap Eco. I figured, it'd be nice to have one. Everybody else does. Join the bandwagon, whatever. This one has a stub, which is quite nice. It's a very smooth rider. It too is a piston filler. However, the mechanism is plastic. This is a less expensive pen, but they've come out with a lot of special releases of this pen, including a couple of rose gold versions and others. Anyway, I've just got the one. But this pen I got a couple of years ago, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, and the packaging obviously is a bit less expensive than these nice polycarbonate packagings. One of the things that you'll note about TWSBIs is that they are a tinkering pen. That's something you can tune the nibs, you can take them apart, you can clean them. They give you the wrench to take them apart, and they give you extra O-rings to replace and some silicone grease to lubricate the the seals in it. And this is included in all of their pens. I'll close that up. Including the Eco. But they use a plastic wrench, and then they have the silicone grease here. The plastic wrench seems to be a little nicer on the plastic pieces without messing them up. Anyway, so Eco. Now let's get to the limited edition. So I wanted to show you both the Draco and the Aurora, which was another limited edition release. The Draco, which I really like. I like green pens. It's kind of my thing. In fact, I will eventually get rid of all my pens that aren't green. And when they made these pens, these limited edition pens, they made them on basically with the same guts and innards as the 580 ALs, where they have an aluminum piston mechanism inside here. You can't see it as well, obviously, because this is a different material. This is not a coated polycarbonate. This is an acrylic, which I hope means it's going to be more durable, that you're not going to have caps breaking apart and cracking. I guess I should mention that my Vac Mini has had its barrel replaced already, and the blind cap, I don't know if you can see it there, but it's got some cracks in it too. It's just the blind cap, so I haven't really done anything about it. Anyway, but these are an acrylic, and you see the chatoyance there, the shimmering inside this in the surface of the material. It's got a smoked ring here, smoked cap, clip, and then another ring here. And it too has the smaller number 5 nib, but this one is black, obviously. And it has metallic threads to fit into metallic threads, thus obviating some of the problems, if not all of the problems, with caps breaking, which is really nice. I think these will be much more durable pens. The one thing that worries me is, let me show you. So look at this clear ink window here real quick. As I move it back and forth, you see that line right there, that casting line right there? That means that this piece, this ink window, is made out of is cast polycarbonate, just like the rest of all the TWSBI pens. If there is a weak point on this pen anywhere, it's going to be in this ink window. Because acrylic is more durable, it's stronger. It may scratch easier than this coated polycarbonate, but it's been more durable because so many other companies make it and they don't have the cracking issues that TWSBI does. Anyway, all of these pens are completely disassemblable, and they all write well. You know, the one thing about a TWSBI is that they are so just reliable writers. They write well, and I've never had one have serious issues. I know some people have issues with the stubs. That, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they are untipped stubs, and if the slightest amount out of alignment, and then you're going to have scratchiness. But that's part of the reason why I don't like untipped stubs. Anyway, it too has the grease and the wrench. There's this little notice on here, you should never use alcohol on these pens. That goes doubly so for their polycarbonate pens, because it will basically turn them to mush. So anyway, the Draco came out, I think it was 2 years ago. There were only a handful made. They sold out, I think, within hours. I have a tricky way of getting these that I think if I tell everybody, they may figure it out and they might go faster. But I order mine from TWSBI themselves, and I do it as soon as I can. Basically, so let's talk about the Draco. The Draco came out on March 31st. And a lot of retailers didn't even post them until like the day after or 2 days after, whenever it was that they were able to figure out how to put it in their stock. But TWSBI themselves had them available, like, I think it was 8 o'clock the night before, because it's earlier there in Taiwan than it is here. And so I watch their website, and as soon as it comes up available, I just buy one at my leisure from their website, and I never have an issue. Anyway, They actually ship from the States. They ship from California. They don't ship from Taiwan. They ship very quickly. Anyway, so here is the TWSBI Draco. This was a significantly more expensive pen than pretty much all of the other TWSBI line. Ecos run about, 28, 29 bucks. These were, 60, 70, something like that. The Vac 700s are in the 70, 75 range. The Aurora, when it came out, I think it was $80, maybe $90. Actually, let me check. I can do that real quickly here if my computer will come up for me. The TWSBI Aurora, I actually have a spreadsheet with all my pens on there. And for some reason, it's not wide enough, and I can't see the numbers with the names. 1 second. So the TWSBI Aurora was $60. Acrylic, beautiful pen, limited edition, $60. The the Draco was essentially the same pen. However, it's $150. Quite a bit more. I don't know why that is. Sorry, I'm going to cut the label here so I can open up the box. And there's a tape on this end, and rather than peel the tape off, I just slice it. There we go. And I have not opened this yet. I restrained myself. So, same deal. Shows you putting silicone grease on the seal, how to operate the piston mechanism and the wrench. Again, do not take the grease off of the mechanism. And here we go. Here is the pen. Here's the wrench, the grease, and the pen. Oh, and here it says how to fill it. And this, again, don't use alcohol on it. It will damage the pen. Most resins, most plastics are damaged by alcohol. And look at that. Look at that pretty acrylic material. This is I think they call this like a cracked ice material. It's obviously, there's some blacks and some, I don't even know what color to call that. Fuchsia? Sadly, on the camera, it looks more pink than it does in person. Mine, it looks a little more purple than this. It's not in my wheelhouse as far as colors go. But, I figured I would experience this and then pass it on to somebody who would appreciate it more than I do later on. Rose gold trim, the clip, the cap band, the ring down here by the piston knob. And then this is laser engraved into the top. It's in relief there. You can feel it. That's the TWSBI logo. And you open it up, and much like the 700R, the Aurora, same thing. You've got the metal threads for the cap, and the cap itself has metal threads in it too, so it'll be a stronger pen. Again, the weak point will probably be this polycarbonate ink window. And again, you can see that seam there. And I just assumed this would be the same as the Aurora, and obviously it is. These are very comfortable pens in hand. They're a nice size. I think they're a pretty good size for most people, regardless of their hands. It's thinner toward the front. You can back up and make it a little bit bigger. The threads don't really feel uncomfortable. If you're one of those people who go way back on the pen, you can actually rest your hand on the threads without really much of an issue. They're not going to cut into your finger or anything. They're not that uncomfortable. Beautiful rose gold nib. And the piston mechanism, you can feel it moving there. It's quite smooth, and you're going to see it come up to the top here. You might see it in the ink window there. Yeah, there it is, just the very top of it. And you can see that looks almost like raw aluminum of the piston mechanism inside there. And close it up. So, neat pen, yeah. Is it worth $150? Maybe. When you start looking at quality-made piston-filling pens, that's about the ballpark where they start. It's hard to find a Pelican for under that price, unless maybe you're talking about one of the 200s or something like that, or a second-hand one. But to find one in this in good condition, or a brand new one, it's going to be in the same ballpark. Steel nibs, but this one's got a lot of extra going on with it. This acrylic is not cast. It has to be machined out of solid rods and then fitted with all of these fittings. And so there's a bit of handwork going on here. They have to fit the ink window and the section and everything, and then we have the nib unit here. And I don't know if this is a screw-out nib unit. No, it's not. This is one where you would pull it out if you needed to change it. But the thing is these TWSBIs, all of mine write right out of the box. And so let's put this one to the test. I've not inked it up before. Obviously, I haven't opened the box. And the ink I was thinking of for this one that kind of fits the color, is Noodler's Red Black. It's kind of a neat color. Let's give her a fill with Red Black. Now, normally Noodler's inks come full to the top, so obviously I've been using this one a little bit. And so to fill this one up, you put it down in so that the top of the section is inside the ink itself. Makes it a little bit messy, and I'm sorry we're a little bit out of frame here. And, oops, I should have twisted it down first. There we go. Now we'll put it in and draw the ink up into the section and the body of the pen. And you can see in the ink window, we've got a lot of ink in there. And now, some people like to, let a few drops of ink come back out once they do that. And then they close it back up. And you hear that little sucking sound? That was when I closed the piston knob, it actually sucked air. And the reason they do that is so that when you start writing with it, it doesn't drip blobs of ink everywhere. And you can see, give it a little tap, there's now kind of a bubble of air at the top of the fill of ink, but it was a very full fill of ink. The TWSBI piston fillers have been extremely reliable. I've never had an issue with them. But it's important to wipe the section unless you like to have ink on your fingers. And now let's see how she writes. I have my trusty William Hanna. Sorry, that was my knife sheath. I had to get it off my notebook. This is a William Hanna notebook. Haven't had it terribly long. It's really nice, though. I really like it. The leather and everything is beautiful. And, of course, being me, I filled it with Clairefontaine paper, although the William Hanna paper is great. I just have a bunch of this stuff lying around. So, this is the TWSBI, and, I write cockeyed, and I'm having a hard time doing this around the camera. Let me see if I can twist myself around so it looks more natural to y'all. So this here is the TWSBI, and this is the Draco. And this is a fine nib, and the ink is Noodler's Red Black. Gosh, it's writing perfectly right off the bat. I do the quick. I usually write a little better than this, and I'm sorry, it's kind of embarrassing to just kind of scribble on camera. But anyway, there is no line variation. These Jovo nibs are reliable, but they're hard as nails. I'm pressing. I'm not really, now I'm not pressing. So it's going to be lighter, but I think that's mostly because the paper indents as you press on it. You can give a semblance of some line variation. I don't like doing it with these just because it's kind of fruitless. They are good, solid daily writers, though, and that's why I got the fine, is because it's the most popular, and also because I have been finding that for daily use, it's hard to beat, regardless of the paper type. Now, you can see here that Noodler's Red Black. It's kind of a fun color. It's nicer in person, but it's a very dark red. I love it. So anyway, this is the Noodler's Draco. And there may be still some of them out there for sale. If it makes sense to you to pick up a pen for $150, that's a limited edition. They're not going to be around for long if they even are still around. And you might want to look. And if you can't find one from a U.S. retailer, you might want to look at TWSBI at their own website. That's how I was able to get my smoke 700, is by going to their website, because they still had them there even though they were gone everywhere else. So, excuse me. TWSBI has a long history of making pens that are kind of unique and different, and they'll have limited editions. The Draco is a clear example of this. Back in the day, they made the Vac 700 in 4 different colors. It was clear, smoke, amber, and blue. I haven't seen any of the amber or blues for a long time, and I've seen my smoke. I haven't seen anybody else with one. But anyway, if you have qualms about using a TWSBI fountain pen because you're afraid that they're going to break, don't. Because like this one here, this Vac Mini, yes, it did crack. It started to crack right up here in the threads here. So that, and the crack slowly got down to the point where it was coming into the ink chamber and it wasn't filling properly. It never got out on my hands. It never leaked through. It was just more of when you were working the vacuum system, it started to leak a little bit. And all I had to do was send an email to TWSBI, and they had one in the mail to me literally that day. And if you have issues with filling vacuum pens, one of the things you might consider is using one of these Pinay inkwells. They also have the Vac 20 bottle. They have, TWSBI makes its own, but these work with every pen. And I like to use it. Come on, you can do it better than that. There we go. See that? Pooh! That vacuum fill just shot that thing completely full of ink. And then when you take it out, there's no ink on the section at all. And I could have used this to fill that too without any issues. I still like to wipe the nib off, just because, in case, some drips out or whatever. And this one, the Vac Mini, I have not used this pen literally in probably 3 years. Now you hear it sound a lot sharper. That's because this nib has been ground to a stub. It's a broad stub. I like to do that with a lot of my pens because I like how they write. So this is a broad. And when you get it at the right angle, it's quite smooth, but it gives you a lot of line variation. Anyway, that's just me. I do this to a lot of my pens. My Aurora is like that too. I like the custom grinds. But I'm just doing this to show that these TWSBI pens are incredibly reliable. They always work. They're always smooth. This pen has sat for 3 years. It still wrote easily. But, I think I will end there. Thank you for joining me for this. And I hope you haven't been too bored. Oh, look at that. Now see the dribbling there? That is what remember when I took the Draco and I made a few drops come out and then I sucked air back in? That's what you avoid by doing that. This one I should have been more aggressive with how I wipe off that nib, because what it does is the ink, when it's in that inkwell, it fills up all of those fins in the feed, and it's just too much when I shook it a little bit there that the ink just came out. Actually, I'll use some blotting paper. These blotting cards from 50 years ago, and then get some, just blot it off the nib there. Anyway, so I'll be writing with these for a few weeks now because they hold so much ink. Anyway, I'll end there. I hope you all have a good night, and goodbye.